Hi, and welcome to my next video. I thought, seeing the weather outside is kind of icy and snowy and cold, I'd do an in-studio painting video. Kind of a tutorial, kind of a just this is me painting. I don't profess to be any kind of an expert. I just enjoy doing what I'm doing, and seeing I have some on eBay that I sell for any other art lovers that want a piece of art in their home for a very inexpensive price. I thought I'd do this video, and if anybody wanted to check that out, they could. Anyway, I thought for this studio picture, I'd pick a photograph from our Newfoundland trip of a few years ago. What I use is a Pigma Micron 03 pen, and watercolors with, today I'm using a number 6 round brush because it's a small painting. I'm just doing a 2.5 by 3.5 inch A.C.E.O. card, and that is what I have on eBay right now. They're fast, they're good for beginners as well because it's a small space and not as intimidating as a large full-size piece of paper would be. I'm using a Strathmore mixed media card. The first thing I do is make the sketch with the ink. I don't, for these small sketches, I don't bother to go to pencil and make it exact. This is more of a representation of what I'm seeing, and you can take a certain amount of artistic license and change parts that you don't particularly like or don't fit in the scene. So up front we have some rocks, and it's always nice to get something in the foreground that's a little bit more detailed and interesting. We have some different grasses. Now, one thing about this shoreline is it's an older area, and so there are small bits of metal and machinery lying around, which adds for the interest. Now, we have a nice building here. Perhaps a boathouse, perhaps a fishing shed of some kind. So we'll get that guy drawn in right here. If you make a short fast strokes, you can correct any perspective errors as you go. And of course, when you're drawing buildings, perspective is quite important. Even though you are interpreting the scene, you want the viewer to imagine that this is a real building and it is going, certain parts of the drawing are going away from you, so you need that perspective to give it reality and 3D-ness. I'm not sure if that's a word, but I'm going to use it. Now, the roof here on this shed is probably just a roofing paper, but I think I'm going to give it the impression of shingles, which is fairly easy, and you don't need to draw every single shingle. Again, you just to give the impression of, and a couple of nice windows here. I've made them a little larger than they are in reality, but that's okay. The main thing when you're doing any little sketches like this, whether on outdoors on site or in the studio afterwards, the main thing is to enjoy it. I think that shows through when you present a drawing or a sketch to anybody, whether they be somebody buying it or just looking at it. It's important, and it shows that you enjoyed drawing it. The viewer can see that. Believe me, even though I've tried to enjoy it, there are days when you do hit a bad moment, and paintings, drawings don't come out as well as you had planned. And I'm going to put there is no chimney on this, but I think I'm going to put a little chimney because we like to keep warm in the winter, especially down on the Newfoundland coast. Somebody's come down here to get away, maybe fix his fishing nets or something for the next season. It needs to be warm. I'm going to put a little. There are smaller rocks and pebbles along the shore here, and there's a little bit of water that comes in here. We'll give it a little bit of interest here. There's some rocks, and there's, I'm going to put a little piece of machinery, a metal wheel of some kind, perhaps part of a fishing boat. A little bit of interest in the front. There's a little bit of odds and ends up here too, but we won't make them too detailed. Anyway, that's good, pretty good for the cabin. We have a little bit of we have a bit of midway shoreline coming into the water here, and we'll just put that in for interest. And over here we have the far shore with the bay in between, and there again we don't want to get too detailed over here because it is further away, but we can put some of the buildings in. To give it some interest, plus to give it life, to give it meaning. Want to look at this painting, this drawing, this sketch, and know that yes, there are things going on. There are people living here. And then behind we have the hills. Now, make it a little bit bumpy because although it is tree covered on the hilltops, we don't want to get too much detail back there because again it's in the distance, and odds and ends of rocks up there too, but we don't need to draw them. The painting will take care of that. And I think that's pretty good for a sketch. Again, these are fast sketches, and we just want to portray the idea of things without getting too detailed. Okay, we can go right into the painting now. What I have is a basic palette of mostly primary colors. I've got the greens, the blue, the red, yellow, and the burnt sienna. What I do beforehand is I take the small sprayer. Okay, what I do beforehand is take the small water sprayer and just give the colors in the palette a little spray to revitalize them, to get them going. Because I just I put the tube paint into the palette and just let them dry right in there. Okay, so right into the painting. Now I always start with a nice cobalt blue sky. Very simple. We don't want anything too complicated. The sky kind of makes itself. Gives the impression of clouds all by itself. Now, because it's a smooth card, you don't want to play around with the color too much after it's down, because you just end up with too many sharp lines and irregular outlines rather than a soft sky-looking sky. Okay, so we can get right into the far hills. Now we want a nice bluish green for back here. And like I said, there are a few rocks back there, so we want to also add some different colors as we go. And there's always as we go down, we'll make it a little darker. And then at this point, I think we'll add some of the water. Get some of that cobalt blue in there again. Now we don't want it to be too strong. And we want to get it to flow with the way the water usually goes. We can put a little bit of reflection though, especially underneath this spit of land that's coming in. And I think we'll go right into the rocks now. So let's see, they're kind of a dark gray color. So maybe we'll get right into that first. Now don't want them all to look the same, obviously, but we can put some bits and pieces of other colors now, because it's kind of a earthy color, and it goes with the other aspects of the scene, like the rusty metal and everything. We'll put some burnt sienna in there, and then we'll get that rust in there very simply. And I did throw some green in there just to give it that to add the grass that's in that area too. Now the same back here, but we maybe make it a little bit bluer if possible, because it is behind the in back of the rocks in the front. It's in the midground, or foreground, back foreground, whatever. So again, we'll throw some. Now I want to throw some red in here just because it's a nice warm color. We'll add some yellow in there too, and it does bring things to the fore. You want the cool colors in toward the back of the picture, and the warmer colors in the front. We will splatter some of the burnt sienna in there, maybe with some of that red too. What that does is kind of gives the impression of detail in the front. And we'll add that little bit of water in that's here at the same time. Now we'll come in perhaps with some, the red of the shack. We'll add a little bit of burnt sienna and maybe a little bit of ultramarine blue to that red to make it not so red, give it a little bit of a darker color. You can paint it all the same color, because we will, coming afterwards, with some darker values for the shadows, and you'll see how important the shadows are in a painting. Gives it that and then we'll add a nice dark value for the roof now, and because it's next to the shingles, so we'll put some burnt sienna in there again, but also there may be some moss growing on the top, so we'll throw a little spot of green here and there, like so. Alrighty, so now perhaps we'll get into that mid-ground island there. A little bit of, just like so. Yeah. And then we don't want it to compete too much with the front, but we still have to put the shadows on. Now what we'll do, you see how fast this is drying, because it's a smooth surface and it doesn't have the tooth of a watercolor, a cold pressed watercolor that you can work and blend a lot more, and the colors will run together. This tends to dry pretty fast, and it's a small surface too. So I'm thinking we'll get some nice darks in. So I'm going to take some ultramarine blue and some burnt sienna and mix up a black. Alright, and then we'll get that down underneath the building because that is completely in shadow. And what that does also is gives a nice contrast with those posts that are holding up the building. And put some nice darks in the window areas to accent the panes. It's not super detailed, but it gives you the impression fairly fast of windows. And maybe we'll make that chimney a little rusty, like so. Oh yeah, let's put a little bit of shadow underneath that small step in the front there, porch, whatever you want to call it. And then we'll bring some nice darks down in here to give the shadow areas of the rocks some definition. Now obviously the sun is coming from the left, so also this side of the building is going to be dark. We'll put this black in here to start with. Let's just finish up with the dark side of the rocks, like so. And maybe a little bit of dark around that piece of machinery. And also these rocks over here. Okay, while we're at it, we'll take a lighter version of that black, and we'll put some, well, maybe not that light, we'll put some roofs over here. And we might even have a little bit of red over here to show that a couple of those buildings are red. We'll take some dulled down brown and we'll put it along that front like so, just to show that there is kind of a wooden dock area over there. So now what we need to do is throw some shadow in there. Well, actually no, before we do that, let's put it a little bit more rust on these pieces of machinery down here, because they've lost their, and we'll splatter some more too, because sure as heck there's little bits of rust on the rusty bits on the shoreline. It's not splattering very good, not wet enough. There we go. And then I'll drop a little bit more of the red in there. Okay, now we can take some, we've got kind of a bluey purple color going here for the shadow areas, and we'll drop that right into that side of the building to start with, because like I said, the sun is coming from the left. We might have to put some more in there after. And these posts are obviously in shadow, if that side is in shadow. We can add some more shadow on this side of this area here, because I just splattered in there. That area is still wet, which is fine. Put a little bit more shadow down here. Oops, wrong color. Maybe we'll throw some shadow over on these rocks too, like so. We'll dull that down a bit. You can come in with you can take the paint off your brush, and you can come in with that after, and it'll soak up areas of paint. Now one place you want to get a nice shadow is underneath the overhang on the side here, the eaves, because that really gives the idea that there is an overhang. Now I think I might even want to put some more. Not sure what happened over there. We missed a little spot, but I'm not going to worry about it, I don't think. Maybe we'll put a little bit of shadow over there. See, you want shadows on these side of the buildings over here too, right? So that's the fun thing about painting scenery, landscapes, is you're imagining that these little places are real back here, so and three-dimensional, so they're all reacting to the light, and the more the darker you make it over here, the brighter the sunlight seems that day, and it's nice and cheery and bright. Now we need to put some shadows in behind this area here, because it's a large area of rock that is blocking the sun. We'll dab in here and there. Now I'm getting to the point now where I'm holding back. You don't want to overdo it at this point. I kind of think it's a nice little sketch right now. To do any more would be fiddling with it, which at this point I don't want to do. One thing I might do, though, is it's kind of devoid of wildlife, so I'm going to throw some seagulls in the distance, like so. And I think we'll call that done. And the final thing is just to put my signature on there. And date it so that you can kind of see when you did it, and if you've improved at all. Hopefully I am a little bit. Anyway, thanks for joining me. Take a look at my eBay if you'd like. If not, it's fine. Take a look at my other videos. I've got a large variety of types of videos right now, and this is just one one aspect of my being, my existence. I enjoy doing the artwork, and I hope you enjoyed watching me. Thank you. Join me again.